Hey, what's going on guys? It's me, Aiden, from Cartoon Apocalypse, and today, the Miraculous community was left in this weird state of super happy and super sad because Oblivio is now out. Now, obviously, big spoilers for if you haven't seen Oblivio, so go watch Oblivio if you haven't seen it yet. It was really good. Honestly though, with as much as we've been getting this hyped up, I think the odds of you have already seen it is pretty high. So let's just talk about it, because this episode, it didn't have too many things plot related. I guess like one of the bigger things was that Ladybug and Cat Noir both have like little emergency manuals that kind of explained out with the way I thought it would. As far as them just already having lost the memories, they just start off by de-transforming, and that was super awesome because it gives the fans something that they've wanted for so long. Like, I don't know like how long we've been wanting this, but it's been a long time. And this episode just shows how they're meant to be and how good this show could get, in my opinion, if they knew and they just stayed consistent. First of all, I'm not even going to go into like first of alls or anything, because it would just, like, you can't deny that this episode was just super good because they worked really well together. They just had great chemistry overall. Just everything about it just made my heart super happy, and I was super excited about it. So one interesting thing about this episode is that not only Marinette and Adrien lost their memories, but also Tikki and Plagg. And it was really funny to see how Plagg was just, on his own. That really shows that how, like, when you lose your memory, you're really stripped down to your core, and then you just have to, like, rebuild. So that shows, like, how Plagg kind of is as a person, or not really as a person, as a Kwami, I guess. So to see that he's more selfish is an interesting thing. It's interesting to see we learn more about his character there. And another thing that I noticed in this episode, maybe it was just by chance that we didn't see any of it, but Marinette, we didn't really see too much clumsiness from her. So that makes me believe it's something conceptual versus like actually physically being clumsy. Now that could be wrong, and there were a couple of moments in this episode, but it wasn't as much as you'd think. So that was also interesting, and it's not just when she's around Adrien, but Adrien does have some tie into, triggering that clumsiness, but just overall as a person, she's way less clumsy than, like, I feel like normally we see her. So that is interesting to see that maybe it's her saying that she's not good enough, and that kind of makes her clumsy, so that's something interesting as well. Now let's go ahead and talk about Oblivio. Now this was the akumatization of Nino and Alia. Now we know from Sapotes that it is possible to akumatize two people at the same time, but this is really the first time where we saw it, like, them fuse together, which was really interesting to see because we've never seen anything like that before. So this could get into the possibility to where Hawkmoth can send out like two different Akumas and akumatize multiple people at the same time. Now I don't know if that's ever going to happen or not, but it is interesting to see how he can akumatize more than just one person if they're sharing a very similar emotion. So that is just another way of seeing Hawkmoth's power get a little bit more powerful. Now one thing that I did want to talk about, because some people might be confused, when Adrien went out with all those boxes on him, we saw a little bit, like a moment where we saw like how we see Ladybug's vision of knowing what to do. We saw a little moment with that with Adrien, and just to clarify, that was just simply to show what he was looking at. And that's the same with Ladybug. Ladybug doesn't exactly gain an extra ability by being able to like see the objects and have them automatically pointed out to her. That's just a way for us to see what they're talking about and what they're thinking. So it's not actually anything that has to do with their powers necessarily. That's just the show's way of indicating what they are looking at and what they're thinking. So that's kind of what that is. I wanted to explain that because some people might have gotten confused. Now I think that there's like a time in here, it was like 30 seconds, where everybody's just like, the fandom, it's like their new favorite moment in the show, because it's just perfect, because it's them just like right before they're about to make everything right again, they kiss, and it's just beautiful. And it's something that I'd love to see in the future, and we don't even know if we will ever see them do like an official reveal, because like I said, this kind of just defeats the cue that we had, because Jeremy Zag did confirm that there would be a reveal, but that technically had a reveal, we might never get to see one again. So in that regards, it's kind of sad, but at the same time, I feel like we can go on for a little bit longer because we do know that Adrian's just gonna keep pushing and he knows that it's possible. So this is showing a little bit more effort on Adrian's side, I think. But it is good to see that it eventually will happen, and we just don't know if it'll happen at the end of the show or halfway, close to the end, but just not all the way there yet. So maybe we'll get to see some of this awesome chemistry, because just think about it. If Marinette and Adrian are both out in the same place, they could be like, oh shoot, we need to go, and then they could they would be together the entire time, and they could formulate and things like that. They would just be so much stronger if they knew each other's identities. Obviously there is a couple downfalls there, but I feel like the strengths overweigh the weaknesses. So I don't know, I just really am excited for when that eventually does happen, but we will probably have to go another couple seasons before we actually see any of that. Now, I loved how we see each of these characters fall in love with each other again, because it shows that it's not necessarily just oh, it's that one person and that they're conscious, whatever. They are so meant for each other that they started liking each other again, and that was really awesome to see, because it shows that they are truly meant for each other. And I mean, I think we all know that they are meant for each other. They've said it multiple times throughout the show, Master Fu said it, etc. So it's already confirmed that they will eventually get together, and hopefully this season. I'm pretty sure they said in season 3 we would see Marinette and Adrian dating, but I can't remember if that was in this season or not. I'm pretty sure it was, but it'll be interesting. Hopefully this is the turning point for the show to where they actually start following some continuity, because one thing I did notice is that we saw that anime type style poster in the background with Ladybug and Cat Noir, so that makes me believe that they're starting to follow a little bit of continuity, because that, as we remember, that was a movie poster, and it's not the biggest thing, but it is a nod to them pointing to a more continuity based show, so that's a good sign. Another thing that I wanted to mention with that one photo spoiler image we got, I did think that they were taking a photo. They weren't actually taking a photo, they were just looking at things, and a lot of people said that in the comments. I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I immediately thought that they were taking a photo. But yeah, that's cool to see. But overall, I don't even want to talk about this episode, because I feel like the more I talk about it, the less I'm going to be excited about it. And I want to remain in this state of being happy for the next couple days, because this is truly a tremendous moment for us Miraculous fans, and oh, it's just a beautiful day. And I mean, it would have been a little bit better if we weren't expecting it at all, but yeah, since Thomas pretty much confirmed before it all happened that, hey, yeah, you guys are gonna be going crazy after the episode, that pretty much just confirmed it. But I mean, we also kind of got that same idea from the synopsis, but really it was Thomas played a big role, and that's funny because Thomas is normally no spoilers, just nothing at all, and it was funny how he kind of just gave it away. But anyway, that's really just a fun little thing, I guess. So this is definitely one of my new favorite episodes, just because it takes the biggest point in the show, the point that makes Miraculous as far as the love square and just everything about it. It takes that and embodies it in an episode. We see 3 out of the 4 different ships in this episode. The only one we don't see is Marichat, and that's, I mean, it's the ship that already has been shot down so many times. That's just them not including it in here is just them proving yeah, that's never gonna be a thing, so don't even try to get your hopes up. But I mean, in the end, they're all the same thing. But it is funny to see how we got those 3 ships, and it was just overall was awesome, and I love this episode, and I will be looking forward to the next one. Actually, we don't have any new episodes confirmed, so we're just kind of, at this state of, yep, we're done with Miraculous for a little bit. I think of course I'll update you guys on all the news that we learn, but for now we're just kind of left with this episode, and this is a good episode to leave off on, because it leaves off on a very high note. And Hawkmoth at the end says that they're love that they don't really know that they have yet is going to be their downfall. Now that could just be Hawkmoth, you know, saying his thing because he has to motivate himself, but it could also be foreshadowing. So that's another thing that I wanted to point out. But other than that, I think I'm really just going to leave this at that. This episode overall wasn't very hard or complicated to understand. It was a very simple episode where, yeah, they are revealed, they have to gain their memory back. Well, they don't really gain their memory back until the very end, but they have to like relearn things, and that's just really interesting to see. So we get to see that again, just a very basic episode, wasn't hard to understand at all. But anyway guys, that's gonna be it for this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, you can leave a like and subscribe for more content similar to this.
Make tea?